My name is Frank Thompson. I'm an Equipment Chief Master, E9, retired from the United States Navy Reserve. Being the first involved with the Navy started on my birthday, because my dad was in the Seabees in World War II, so as he was winding up the end of his career, of his 2 years, 11 months, and 13 days, I was born. So all my life, that's all I knew about the Navy was the Seabees. So when I turned 17, I decided that for some reason I got this wild hair. Somebody says you can make some money on the weekends and 2 weeks out of the year by going to here. So I guess I turned 17 in September, and December the 12th of 1962, I joined the Navy as a Seabee, as a construction recruit. Did my training. Went to boot camp in '63. In January of '64, I made my first 2-week active duty, was with MCB-4 in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, which in my first 6-year enlistment, I spent almost half of it at Camp Lejeune. I said, good thing I didn't join the Marines, because I really don't like his place. So I went on active duty, went to A school in June of '64. Finished construction mechanic A school and went to MCB-7, where I spent the rest of my active duty, which was 2 years and a day, at the Vietnam era time, and spent that up to MCB-7. Fact is, I was the guy that was in charge of the detail that put the battalion on the airplanes to go to Vietnam. And it's really weird when you put them on there. There's 6 of us, and when they're gone, you're assigned to nobody, because you stayed with the battalion. It took them 3 weeks to find us in Davisville. So there we are. So I get out in June of '66, come back home, did my 30-day wait before I reported, affiliated with the reserve unit, because I had been, as an A school graduate, I had to spend at least 2 years as a drilling reservist, which was part of the agreement to go to A school. So I did that. When I came up to the end of my first enlistment, I decided that there is no retirement in civilian life for a car mechanic. Why don't I stay? It was beginning to be fun. You know, it's a career. It's the deployments I made to Rhoda and Gitmo. One of the most enjoyable was the first one, was at Gitmo. We got to Gitmo in '64. It was still a little tenuous down there. Contrary to what a lot of people heard, there were still shots being taken over the fence. And we made a couple of shows of force to make sure the Cubans didn't try to throw us off the place, because back then they were definitely wanting to get rid of us. But we stayed and did that. And we went through that deployment. Excuse me, went through that deployment, came home. Our shortest home port stay was 2.5 months. I spent half that time in school. I went to NBC Warfare and Disaster Recovery School and a couple of trade schools, and then we deployed to Rhoda, Spain. We closed that portion down, getting ready to go back to Cuba. Had everything ready, everything we were going to go. We were going to go back to Cuba. We get back to the States at Christmas. I get home from there, and they says, the captain is gone to Way. He's going out and scouting locations for battalion deployment to Vietnam. So we commenced to getting everything ready. Well, I was short time, so I was put in what they call their support unit. There was 6 of us. I was a 3rd class. I was in charge of the support unit. I'm saying, why me? He says, you can handle it. I was dispatcher. I was scheduler. I was mechanic. I was everybody's daddy, because we picked up a couple more. Training drivers and stuff. And it was, and I did the job. I had officers trying to get me to stay, and I in the long run, I probably should have. But it's, you know, one of the hindsight's 20/20 deals, but I enjoyed it. Had a kid walk up to me one day and says, Frank? I said, yes. He says, I'm being faced to being drafted. And I'm thinking about joining the Army to beat going to Vietnam. He says, what do you think? I said, I can't tell you what to do. I said, but I wouldn't trade my time for it. I said, I enjoyed where I went. I said, lived 5.5 months in Rhoda, basically on the community, because the base over there was a Spanish base, and I enjoyed it. We had plenty of time. And then, like I said, I came back, and being the only mechanic in my detachment, there was nothing for me to do, being I was working in my trade. So I started the military training program, and it was a copy of one that we had on active duty. So that developed, and had a call one day. They wanted some military training instructors. So I'm thinking, going to go to instructor school. Well, that wasn't what it was about. It was about you going to be a military training instructor. So we spent, a couple of friends of mine and I spent 6 months getting ready for it. And that's where the basics of the reserve CB military instructor came about. Because I had made E4 on active duty, had been selected for E5, I would have had to extend. Didn't do it, but came home, got E5. Almost aced the E6 test. Threw the bell curve out the window with a 3.968. And made chief in 71, made senior 6 years later than that, made master's 6 years after that. Served as company commander, acting company commander, company chief, built the military training program in MCB 23. About the last trip that I took with 23, I was the last official 106 recoilless rifle instructor. We had to train 23s, 106 people. They were only due to be in the system for another 1.5 years till they got phased out, but we needed to get them trained. So, which is what I was trained on in active duty, so I kept it up. So I did all this prep work, get to Quantico, borrow all of their slides, get to Quantico, start my presentation, and this is going to be a class for 2 weeks. I've got 23 people. No, I've got 30 people from 23. I've got 4 corporals and sergeants from the basic school at Quantico, MacDec Quantico. And then I look back, I got about 6 or 8 people in the back of this class that I haven't seen before. So after the first day, I walked up to one of my sergeant assistants and I said, excuse me, can you tell me who these guys are back here in uniform? And I don't know. He says, well, these guys are not making it in the 106 portion. They didn't pass the 106 portion of the basic school. He says, we're putting them in here with you to see if you can teach them. So, fine with me. So I have the distinction of having taught a couple, 4, 5, 8 Marine Corps officers the 106 recoilless rifle. And then at the end of that, they came up to me and says, I learned more from you than I did any of the Marine Corps instructors. I said, well, I'm used to teaching our farm boys and stuff. I said, but I enjoyed it. So I went to MCB 20 when our detachments were transferred, built their program, and finally retired in 92 as finishing up as command master chief for an MCB 20. But like I said, my dad was in, and was what I had never thought about being anything else but a Seabee. And I think he was proud because I did make it to E9 and graduated with that, and he really enjoyed that. Like I said, the first he got was he was a motor machinist mate, 3rd class. And of course, after me being in for a long time, he decided that maybe when I enlisted, he should have re-enlisted. Because he said, I didn't realize how much fun you were going to have